All right, good evening, all. Welcome, David Dean Botrell. How are you doing, sir?
I am good. That was spectacular, by the way. I
we,
have, I've not seen this before. I've never seen the show before, but that's a spectacular start to the show. I'll tell you that. Well
we have
done.
two graphic artists. What can I say? We have a good group. So let me just check in and see how we're doing. We're doing. All right, we're all over the place. How are you doing, sir? So you are. Everyone should know David is. I say you're an actor, a writer, a producer, an acting coach. Have I left anything else out?
No, I think that's most of it. I've done a little directing as well. So I've done a little bit of everything, but most people tend to know me as an actor because of the TV stuff. But yeah, I do. I got a lot of hats.
And it's so funny. We just had my good friend Ted Brunetti on 2 weeks ago, who I think you two guys are so much in the same situation because he had moved to New York 3 years ago. Let's see.
Yeah.
For his Broadway play that he was doing, and he's kind of stuck in New York too, like you. And so I think of you guys. You're my two acting coach friends in New York. I have to. So and I've told people. Listen. Well, I'm going to have you tell it, but I tell you the story about getting the role of Lincoln Meyer to everybody because it's such. And I tell Ted because Ted's the one. Ted is an acting coach, but he teaches this class specifically on auditioning. Right, that's kind of one of the things he did, and he always says, his thing is always an audition is an opportunity to work.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if you're there to try and get a job, you are screwed and you're never going to get the job.
Yeah.
And he says, let them ruminate you, and when something's right, they'll call you. And I said, Ted, do I have a story for you? So before we get to that, tell us, take us back. Where you're from? How did you get started in acting? And tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay. Okay, gang. I'm originally from Kentucky, actually. I'm from there. My dad was a minister, and he moved us around a bit. And somewhere in all of that, I was actually kind of quiet. Like you wouldn't know that now. I talk so much, but I was kind of this quiet person, and I wanted to be an artist. I was very good at painting, and I was quite good at sketching and all that. And I thought that's what I'm going to do. And I was pretty much kept to myself. And then for some reason, when I was a freshman in high school, I got drugged to see a play that my high school was doing. And there was a girl in it who I felt absolutely crazy. I was obsessed with her. I just fell in love with her that day. And I had no way of meeting her because I could not speak. I was so shy, I could not possibly have spoken to her. And I waited a whole year till I was a sophomore to audition for a play because I thought she was going to be in it. And there were 5 boys' roles in it, and 5 boys auditioned. So I got in this play, and then it turns out she wasn't in it.
Oh my God.
And I was like stuck in this play, and I was terrified, and I was terrible in it, I'm sure. But I remember being in it and walking out there, and it was a comedy. And I said whatever my line was, and the audience laughed, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I just couldn't believe what that felt like to make people laugh. And that was the beginning of it. And I just, from there, I went on to eventually come to New York and study acting here with a very big deal guy named William Esper, who was a very terrific teacher, amazing teacher, just passed away about a year and a half ago. And then from there, I started working in theater in New York and did a tremendous number of plays. I don't know if tremendous is the right word, but I did a lot of plays. And then something happened, which happens in the lives of actors sometimes. I had a kind of a type. I played teenagers. I was very, very young looking when I was in my early 20s. I passed for like 16, 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was very, very boyish looking. And then around the time I hit 30-ish, I didn't look that way anymore. And all my jobs dried up. And I thought, holy shit, what am I going to do? Because all of a sudden I was back to waiting tables again. And I decided to try to write something. And I tried my hand at writing something, and I had beginner's luck. I wrote a play that got done off Broadway relatively quickly after I wrote it. and that it had kind of I mean it was, I don't know, we did it out of town. It was great. We brought it in. They changed everything and they fucked it up and it crashed and burned. But I started getting calls immediately because of the script to that play, because it was funny. It was a very funny play, I think, anyway, to come to LA. So I came to LA and I worked as a screenwriter for a long time, working at various studios, bunch of projects. Only one ever got made into a movie. But I was one of those guys that, stayed pretty consistently employed writing screenplays. And then after about a decade or so of that, my phone rang one day and I wound up on this television show out of the blue. And I had not acted in years. I wasn't seeking it. I didn't want it. It literally was just a phone call that came in one day. And it sort of changed everything, because I was truthfully getting a little sick of being a screenwriter. Honestly, it's a very, very, very tough business, as I'm sure many people know. But it just suddenly, this role kind of just changed my whole life overnight. And then since that time, I've had this weirdly kind of hyphenated career where I do a ton of different things now. I act and I do still write, and I published a book last year, and I'm now about to go pitch some television series, and it's like in addition to the other stuff that I do, and I also teach here in New York, and it's like I have this whole kind of like I'm hyphenated so many times it like doesn't really fit on my resume anymore.
All right, so tell us, you get this phone call, and the phone call is from?
It's from a casting director, and
this was, when was this? This was
probably 2006 or something, I think.
Okay.
So out of the blue, I get this call, and she asked me if I will come in and read for this role. And it's one scene in one episode of Boston Legal, which was a very hot show at the time. And I turned her down.
You? And why did she call?
What?
Why did she call you?
She called me because that's a question I asked her. I said, "Why are you calling me? Like, I don't even have an acting agent anymore, and no one's submitting me for roles." And she said, "I remembered you from a play that I saw you in many years ago." And she told me the name of the play, and it had literally been like 20 years.
Yeah, you told me that. I was like,
I was like, and in the play, I was at the time playing this kid, as I did in those days, who had suffered very severe brain damage. And so he had a very hard time, navigating the world. And she said, you were just so weird. You were like so genuinely weird in that play. And I've always remembered it. And I said, "Oh, thanks." And then she asked me to come in and read for this thing. And I said I didn't want to do it. And then she kind of kept twisting my arm and saying, "Oh, come on, please, come in tomorrow." And she said they don't really know what they want. They just want somebody who's strange in some way. They want some kind of a strange vibe. And I said, "Well, what's the part?" And she said it's described as a creepy Truman Capote character.
Yeah, that's so on.
And the long story short, she talked me into it. She said, "I'll get you in early. You could be the first audition, blah, blah, blah. Just come in and give it a whirl." And I got this material, and I don't do Truman Capote. Like I don't do imitations really, And I thought, how am I going to do? Like I have to go in and do this audition tomorrow. And so and the guy was wealthy. That's all I really knew about the character. Well, I knew a lot about it, but that he was wealthy was the primary thing. And I thought, well, who do I know who's wealthy, or who have I known who's wealthy? And I remembered somebody that I used to cater for when I was a young guy putting myself through acting school, who was very odd. And came from like some very, very East Haddam, kind of a very, very super waspy guy, had a kind of strange kind of East Haddam, like Katharine Hepburn kind of accent. And he was just as bizarre as he could be, and out of touch with reality. He was very wealthy. And he also was a total drunk. And he was clearly gay, but he always like talked about this imaginary girlfriend that I never ever saw at any of these parties that I catered for him. And so he was just, I always enjoyed working for him because he was so strange. Like he was such a strange character, and he tipped well also. But anyway, I started thinking about him and how when he would get drunk, he would speak with great confidence about subjects that he knew nothing about. And it was hilarious. And so I just started walking around my living room And I started to say the lines from this Boston Legal guest shot role in his voice as I remembered it, and with the kind of confidence that he used to have. And it suddenly seemed really funny. Like it was really, there was something about it that was just so funny because everything I was saying was so incriminating, and yet I was saying it was if it, didn't apply to me somehow, like the law didn't apply to me. So I thought, okay, that's it. So I went in and I did it for them the next day. And I've never had an audition like that in my life because they wouldn't kind of let me leave the room. Like they kept saying, do it again. And I'd say, okay, do you want me to like change anything? They'd say, no, just do it again. And they just like laugh and laugh and laugh every time I did. And so finally I left the room after I did it. I've been there like a long time. And I was like getting my coat and I was getting ready to leave. And somebody ran out and grabbed me and said, can you stay in the neighborhood for 2 hours? I can't tell you why. I can't explain that. Don't ask me, but just stay in the neighborhood for 2 hours and we'll call you. And I was like, okay. And so I did. And then I went to some Starbucks and hung out. And then
go get a cup of coffee.
Right. And then they called and said, okay, it's yours. We need you to come back and go to wardrobe.
Wow.
And it happened that fast. And then the next day I got a revised script and it clearly I was returning. Like the role was rewritten in such a way that clearly I was going to come back. And I wound up having this remarkable experience on that show because David Kelly, who's of course an incredible writer for television, just an icon in that world, thought my character was really funny and he was really intrigued by it. And he was kind of intrigued that what I had done was very different than what I guess most people had done because I kind of did my own thing,
It's such a wonderful thing for a writer when you get an actor that inhabits the role and makes you go, oh, that's even better than I thought it would be, right?
I can tell you that historically in my acting career, I can look at like several jobs that I got because I thought I'm never going to get this. Like this is not my kind of role, so I'm not going to get this. So I'm not going to try to get this. I'm just gonna like do my thing here. Like if I'm going to show them what I'm good at, and then they'll call me for something else, Yes. And then I wound up getting it because the thing I did was something that I did do well, and and then it kind of works. Like it works in the room, and then they sort of wind up adjusting what they had in mind and hiring me instead. And that's happened a couple of times, more than a couple of times actually. But this was the big one, man, because David couldn't kind of get enough of this character, and he wrote this incredible arc for him.
I know.
And he kept like every week when I would get a new script, I couldn't believe it. Like I would think, oh my God. And by the end, I had as much screen time as any of the regulars did. I was like on that show.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
It was incredible. Well, you provided us a clip here. So we're gonna watch the clip. And the great thing is, let's see here. The great thing, I'm going to share this clip, is this is a scene with legendary Candice Bergen, who, oh my God, I remember when I first saw the Sand Pebbles and I fell in love with her.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw the Sand Pebbles after I saw her in The Wind and the Lion, but she's an icon, right? So,
oh my God.
Let's see, and then you can comment afterwards.
Sure.
You look like you're prepping for a date. I certainly hope it's with me.
Lincoln, what are you doing here?
I feel our special relationship has stalled, Shirley, don't you? I had a brief thought of that Bella, I admit, but my mind always comes back to you.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you this before, Lincoln, but you're a pretty weird guy.
Deddy Crane was lovely, but I feel you and I would sustain a deeper connection.
The thing is, you don't need a lawyer. The police don't consider you a suspect.
That's little comfort. What if someone else were to turn up dead? Could I persuade you to get a bite with me, Shirley?
You could not.
Would it help if I had a pistol? Oh, dear. I bet if this were a movie, we'd have one of those ominous chords play right about now.
What are you doing, Lincoln?
What you're going to do is walk out of here with me, calmly and without incident. You and I need to get on with our special friendship, Shirley Schmidt.
Lincoln, you're nuts, but you're not this nuts.
Tonight's date is with me, after all, Shirley Schmidt.
Well, you're so good. I tell you, when I tell people, I say it's like if Truman Capote was a serial killer. That's basically who Lincoln Meyer is, right? It is amazing. It is.
I guess.
It was. I can see what it was because I was a huge fan of Boston Legal.
Oh, it's a great show.
Oh, it was such a great show. I mean, listen, Shatner deserved those Emmys he got, and what's his name was the lead.
James Spader.
James Spader was just he's brilliant. But the whole cast, and of course, it was just David Kelly just knows how to write. Man, those episodes they sung. They were just.
He's incredible. Everybody I know who's ever worked for him, and that would include me, says the same thing, which is he is once he casts somebody in one of his shows, he's really uncanny at being able to kind of zero in on that actor's voice, and people would say things like, I felt like he has bugged my apartment or something because of the way that he writes these lines that come right out of me. So he really loves actors, which is really cool. Some showrunners do not love actors, but he really does, and really is always intrigued to see what he can kind of get out of you. And that was it. Like I said, it was life changing. It was absolutely life changing. Everything that I've done since that show is because of that show, for sure, absolutely. And I write about that in my book. I write about that experience because it changed everything.
Listen, I've got another clip that's here on YouTube, so we're just going to show this clip. I couldn't find as much as I want, but anyway, I found this one. So let me play this clip here.
Sure.
You gotta be kidding. Claire, bratty boy, what a surprise.
Hello, Lincoln. Listen, evidently the police are still asking questions about you on the Judge Potts murder. They want another statement, so we thought we'd best have a little conversation. Can we come in?
Why didn't you call and have me come into the office?
Well, we thought we'd just head right over.
I don't believe you.
Can we come in, Lincoln?
No.
Oh my God.
Hey, may I join?
I'm sorry, no.
But you tell me you're practically a Navy SEAL.
Want a plane that loops the loop. Me, I want a hula hoop. We can hardly stand the wait. Please, Christmas, don't be late.
Okay, fellas, get ready.
Oh, man, I didn't know that was on YouTube.
Yeah, I get. Yeah. It is so funny because and I've told this story before is when you invited me out to lunch one day when you wanted to talk about Sci-Fest, the science fiction one-act play festival you put on, and we're sitting at was it Montecito Grill? What was the name of that sandwich shop on Sunset? Right by the park. Anyway, you're sitting there. And we were having a conversation, and you said, "Oh yeah, I've been on TV and stuff." And I said, "Oh, anything I know?" And you said, "Oh, I was on Boston News." And I was like, "Oh, who were you?" And you said Lincoln Meyer, and I was like, the light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, "Yes, you were." I was like, I felt like I was in the presence of royalty. I was I was so blown away.
Thank you, Alex.
and it's led to a wonderful, wonderful relationship. So tell us, since then you've worked, and you tend to work, I've seen you guest star on Justified and Law and Order. Yes,
yeah.
Lots of.
I've kind of done all the procedurals. I've mostly playing killers for the most part, all kinds of different killers. But yeah, I've killed and killed all over network TV and cable as well. But I played a lot of those for sure. And occasionally I kind of get out of that mode and get to play something a little different. But I played a lot of that kind of stuff. Or either if I'm not the killer, I'm the person they think is the killer anyway. But,
well, okay. And I'm going to show you. Here's another thing we'll show of you, which you're not the killer.
Okay.
I don't know why he's coming on me like that. All I done was show his lady what kind of film to buy.
And saw him before this?
It's on the video. There are two of them come in here before. If I didn't know better, I'd swear that blonde girl put me up to take a beat. You know what you mean. Guess I should have known it was too good to be true. I don't meet many people with a common interest. I just thought, I don't know. Yeah, either one of them mentioned where they were headed at any point in all this. He said if you wanted to shoot pictures of horses at some farm across the way, I told her to use the Fuji stock. Better grades. Yeah, but say which farm?
There you go. Well, so you weren't always a killer, let's say.
No, I was not a killer in that. That was a great show. I loved that show. Justified. That was an awesome show.
About that show. The other day, someone was just saying, we were talking about that show, and they said, and I have never seen it, and they said, oh, you got to watch that show. And we're like, okay, I'll just add it to the queue.
It's very good. It took place in Kentucky, where I'm from, which that was the first TV show I know of that had taken place in Kentucky. And so I just wanted so badly to be on it. And again, when that role came up, the previous scenes is there's a reason why he got beat up, and it's because he sort of made this kind of lewd pass at somebody's girlfriend. And but when I got the material, I thought, I know exactly what they want. They want this kind of sleazy, hillbilly Southern guy, which isn't exactly what I do. And I thought, I'm going to do something different. So I just played it very differently, as if like I had this kind of dirty little secret, and I was so kind of nervous and embarrassed to let it out. And the guy loved it. Like the director loved it and said, "Oh my God, I was moved by how badly how scared you were to say what you wanted, and then to get shit beat out of me." So the whole thing, like, it's just funny what can happen when you don't try to get the part and you just try to be good. Sometimes you can get really good stuff. It's really kind of interesting how that can work sometimes.
Yeah, which is what Ted always taught me in class too. He's always about that. And so I took class not because I wanted to audition, but it was just another different acting class. But he was all about that. He was all about, just you go into work. You don't go in to get a job. So tell us. So since you moved to New York, that was about 4 years ago.
Yeah, almost.
It was right around the time we were moving out here.
Yeah, probably so.
And so you moved to New York mainly to act?
I came here a couple of reasons. One of them was I just kind of, as people do, so I've been in LA for a long time. I've been there for about over 20 years. And I kind of felt like I kind of plateaued, in terms of the kind of work that I was getting there. It was a lot, like I said, it was a lot of murderers, largely. And I had a very kind of interesting career because I wound up, I didn't really, people think I was like, they say, oh, I saw you on TV a million times, but they really didn't, because I kind of like would do maybe 3-4 shows a year, but they were really good shows. They were really big shows. And I usually had a big part playing some freaky person. And that was great. That was great. But, in the world of television, if you do like 4 shows a year, that means you worked maybe 12 days that year.
Yeah.
And but people don't think of it that way, obviously, because they just remember they saw it and they liked it. They saw you were funny, or you were scary, or you were whatever. And so part of it was that I felt like, I feel like this is kind of what LA has to offer me at the moment, is this. And the other thing was the demise of Sci-Fest, which was a big project that I put a lot of heart and soul into, but then, which was a one-act play festival that Alec participated in. A lot of people were involved in that festival. It was an amazing thing. It was science fiction, one-act plays. Oh, incredible. It was just the talent and the imagination and the design work and the scripts and all of it. I'm so proud of it. But then because of a change in union regulations, the festival was no more, like, overnight.
I know.
And so that happened. And that was kind of one of the things that was anchoring me to LA. And I sort of thought, maybe it's time to go back to New York for a while and see what might be there, and which was, every once in a while we do need to change. Like, clearly you needed to change to come back to Atlanta and try something different. And it just was, the timing of it was right. And I was single. I didn't have a dog. I didn't own where I lived. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was a free bird. I could do it. All I'd do was sell my car and I could do it. So I did. And I have had a place in New York, my same old apartment that I'm in right now, which I never let go of. So I had this relatively
New Yorker.
Yeah. And I applied for a teaching job here, just on a lark. I thought, let's see. And bang, I got it. And I said, there's the answer. The American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which is the oldest acting school in the English-speaking world.
Wow.
Actually. Yeah.
Really?
Founded in 1884, I believe. Yeah. And so I teach there. It's a very cool, lovely place. They let me, whenever I get an acting job or have to take off, they let me do it. It's great. When I was doing the book tour, they let me do that. And when I was doing my one-man show here in New York, they let me out to do. They're so understanding. And we all kind of, the instructors there, a lot of working actors work there. So we sort of sub for each other and stuff. So and I really do like teaching. I like working with young people and not so young people as well. But this school is primarily, obviously, younger people, but it's fun. I really do like it. So it was a new chapter. And the other thing, Alec, was, pardon me, my allergies are like terrible today. It rained here and like it did something.
Oh.
But was in LA. I had been sort of married and divorced, a couple of times in my time there. And I just felt like I had aged into a particular age range where in LA, I was invisible. Like, I thought, I'm never going to remarry if I stay here. Like, I'm never going to meet anybody. That's never going to happen.
Interesting.
And interestingly enough, about a year after I moved back here, I met somebody that I've been with since, which has been an extremely happy experience. And so everything about the move here was good. And also, when you go to new places, I'm sure happened to you when you went back to Atlanta, is you do new things. And like, I've been thinking about writing a book forever. And I thought, let me just try this. And I wrote a book proposal and I sold it. And 2 weeks later, I had a book.
Wow.
2 weeks later, I had this deal to write this book. And it's been an amazing thing. And the book is very, it's about how to be successful as a middle-class artist. I can't tell you to be a superstar, but I can tell you, how to sort of make a living as an artist. And that's what the book's about. And I'm really proud of it. It's called Working Actor, the name of it, although it covers a lot of things besides just acting, but it's doing pretty well. And and the response to it's lovely to hear from people who have read it and, feel like it helped them in some way. So it's been a really interesting chapter,
Wow.
I got back. Yeah.
Well, that's a great book because, when I was going through Howard Fine's acting school in 2012, I was telling this story yesterday. I was in a class with, let's see, this 2012, so I was 52 at the time. I'm in a class with 30, 20 somethings who are all trying to become actors. Yeah. And I was just there because, like, look, I want to learn. I'm doing a project and I'd like to be good at it, my project. But that's it. They all wanted to be actors and working actors. And you just want to say, boy, that is a tough road to hoe, folks. It is not for the faint of heart. And most of you are not going to be working actors.
I'll tell you, Alec, it's one of the things that I talk about in the book, because a lot of people, and I find it really flattering. People say this. They'll say, gosh, David, you do so many different things. You're like, you've been an actor and you've been a writer and you've been a director and you've produced some stuff and you teach and you do all these different things. And really, honestly, the only reason I ever like moved from one thing to the other was this desperate attempt to escape food service. And so, like, when I couldn't get an acting job, I was like, maybe I could be a writer. And when that sort of, when an opportunity, when I was between writing things, I think, hey, I could direct something. And then I actually got hired to direct something. And so it really, I've always been sort of like, I don't know, I'm kind of a con man in that way about saying, yeah, I'm sure I can do it. I'm sure I can do it without being completely sure I could do it. But I was always intrigued to sort of see if I could keep going. And I've managed to, for like my entire life, make my living creatively. And that I'm really proud of, you know what I mean? And these things kind of cycle in and out of my life. I just did this one-man show, which has been another phenomenal thing because I never, ever wanted to do anything like that, ever. And it's kicked open all of these doors that have been kind of remarkable. And I just did it in New York, and I'd done it many years ago, and I revamped it, and we did it here, and it was very successful when I brought it out. And it was, Random House bought it and they recorded it as an audiobook and all kinds of shit happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's cool. And then I came to LA, and I was in LA the first week of March, right before everything shut down. I just cheated death, and I did a bunch of shows at the Acme Comedy Theater, and they all sold out, which was amazing. And I got new management and all kinds of stuff happened. And so now suddenly, because of that show, I'm now about to start pitching these TV shows, which I've been out of that business for a while, but now suddenly I'm back in it. Mostly because there's no performing work right now. There's none because of the shutdown. I'm just a believer of, like, if you want to make your living creatively, then you can do it. I believe you can do it if you have talent and imagination and you can handle it, because it is what it is, But if you can handle the gambling aspect of it, it can be done. It really can be done, and I'm really proud. I'm proud of that, actually, and I'm happy to tell people what I know about it. But it largely has to do with staying in there, as I'm sure you know. My God, what you've done with Axanar is like, what
we're still doing.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
and we should have been done by now, but of course, coronavirus hit. We've got 2 days of shooting in LA that we've got to get knocked out.
Right.
So we'll do. By the way, Crystal went to acting school in New York. She went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy. I don't know if you
I do.
With that one, yeah, that's where she went. And,
I know that one. That we are frequently confused with them because our names are a little similar.
Right.
They focus more on musical theater.
Gotcha. Yeah, Chris, I wish Crystal would do something in that because she's got a great voice.
Never too late.
Yeah, I know, huh? I keep pushing her to do something. And
write her a musical number in Axanar.
I know. She did, and she keeps. I'm like, I keep trying to find something in Axanar, but it's like, look, I can't make you a main character in Axanar because that's nepotism. That's not going to work. And so we put her on, when we shot in October, we put her on the bridge of J.G. Hertzler's character, Santa. We put her on that bridge, and she was in the trailer. And then when we had to recut the trailer, she wound up on the editing floor.
Oh, damn it!
I know.
Oh, well, eventually.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, we're doing another shoot next month, and I told her I'd get her in there. But because she did something for it was funny because she did something for another Star Trek fan film, which is like, it's totally different. It is like Star Trek fan film shot on an iPhone, and it's just so super basic. But the guy who does it's got a huge heart, and it's all about story and character. And he doesn't give 2 clicks about. He's like got Starfleet officers wearing sneakers. He doesn't care, Like, I don't care what costume it is. Anyway,
really funny.
And she had this great outfit and did her hair, and she nailed it. She was like the best part of the film. Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
She was really. Everyone was like, "Wow, Crystal was really good." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. She's good.
If your heart and soul is in something, it really shows. No matter what the technical aspects are, It really does. If you're out there and you love doing it, and it's cool. I've seen that more than once, and I've lived it a couple of times. When I first came to the city back here, again, my phone rang, which I love it when my phone rings. And, a friend of mine, I should say an acquaintance of mine at the time, I didn't know him that well, invited me to be part of this web series that he and his partner, I knew the other guy too who was involved, and I said, yeah, sure. I knew with the two of them involved, I thought, well, great, that I'm sure it's going to be good. And it was really lovely. And so we shot this web series called After Forever. And it was I think about 10 episodes or something. The episodes are about 10 minutes long, something like that. Okay. And it turned out really good. I mean, everybody was so like dedicated to it. Everybody put their heart into it. And I didn't even know this existed, but there's Emmys now that are in the daytime Emmys that cover digital series.
Oh, wow.
And the first season of After Forever it got nominated for 8 digital Emmys, and we won 5 of them.
Wow.
I know. And so we are currently nominated for, I think the Emmys came and went, though. I haven't been following things. But anyway, we were nominated again for like 6 Emmys this year, which I don't think we won. But that's okay. We'll be back next season or whatever the hell we can shoot a 3rd season. But the point of that story was, we were paid $1.50 to do that. But it was lovely. And I'd keep shooting it for as long as they want to shoot it. I'd do season 10 of that show just because it was such a nice experience. The people were great. Everybody did good work.
That's so important. I mean, it's so wonderful to hear, J.G. Herbster talked about his experience on Prelude to Axanar all the time, and how he always says it was as good as any show I've ever been on. I was treated it was so professional and everyone was so nice. And boy, that's the best thing I can possibly hear.
Yeah.
Because then whatever you get, you got in the right way and for the best reasons.
Yeah. I completely agree. And have you liked being in Atlanta? Have you enjoyed being there?
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly different than LA. It's in one seg. I really like it in that it's kind of green and it's, there's something wholesome about living out in the country. I say out in the country. It's not out in the country. It's the suburbs, but
right.
I live on a lake. I mean,
oh my God, how nice!
These 3 windows here look out on a lake during the day. I mean,
how nice! I shot a couple of. I had a little recurring role on a TV show called Rectify, that shot down there for a while, a Sundance show that had a big sort of cult following. And but I was down there for a couple of episodes, and right at the end of its run, and I got to see a little bit of Atlanta. I had some students, former students of mine who were living in Atlanta at the time, and they invited me to kind of come out with them. They said, "Oh, there's a big kind of networking party for the actors and the casting directors of Atlanta and all that. We want to come." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I didn't really know what to expect, but it was really large. It was a really large event. And what really struck me about it was there were a lot of casting people there, and they were at the party with the actors, just talking, very regular. I'm sorry, what?
You froze up for a second. So can you just say that?
Sure, I can back that up. What I was saying was when I went to this party that they invited me to, these 2 actor friends of mine invited me to in Atlanta, it was packed, and there were casting directors there who were just at the party with everyone else. It wasn't a weird thing. It was very regular and okay. And I kept thinking, I can't think of one casting director in LA who would go to a party knowing it was going to be packed with actors. I mean, I can't think of anybody who would show up for that event, Right. But here in Atlanta, everybody was very accessible. And my friends were dragging me up and introducing me to these casting directors. And they were saying, "Oh, are you moving here? Are you moving here?" And I was like, "Well, no, I'm not actually." And they were saying, "Oh, damn it. God damn it. Well, if you do decide to move here, will you call me? Will you let me know?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll let you know if I decide to move to Atlanta."
Wow.
But that was very sweet, but it was very real. There wasn't the same kind of weird hierarchy that there is between job seekers and job givers, at least in my limited experience in Atlanta, but it seemed really nice. we shot kind of outside of Atlanta. I did get a chance to come in a couple of times when I was there, but it was really swell. I mean, it was really kind of a cool place.
There's so many communities around Atlanta, and you'll be, like we were just in last month. We went for lunch in Covington, and that's another little town. Well, that's where they shot Vampire Diaries.
Oh, right.
Like, oh, okay, well, that's it. And then then you go to another little town. You're like, oh, they shot this here. Or that. Heck, here in downtown Lawrenceville, they shot the first episode of Doom Patrol, I think. Right?
It's so great. It's so great.
Hollow, and
so glad. It's so great that it's. I mean, I'm just happy, actually, in a way that it's not. I shouldn't say this because it's very politically incorrect, but I'm kind of happy that production has moved around a little bit and it's not all stuck in one place.
Sure.
I think that's actually kind of healthy for our whole industry, for that to happen every once in a while. And I know, I feel bad sometimes when things happen in California or don't happen in California, but I think it's kind of nice that it moves around a little bit. And also, when we were shooting, I forget, something was shooting just down the road from us. At the same time, we were shooting some agricultural college just outside of Atlanta. And it reminded me, like a few years ago, I was in Croatia shooting this terrible TV series that never went anywhere. But just down the road, Game of Thrones was shooting. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be on that show.
Yeah, right, huh? Oh, man. Yeah.
But anyway.
What do you think about, so how has New York handled the shutdown of, not just the film industry, but Broadway? I mean, how is New York handling all of this? I mean, it's got to be a huge mess.
It is. It's quite a blow. Particularly for people who make their money performing nightly. It's been gone until it was gone. It ended in mid-March. Everything shut down. All the theaters shut down. They're projected to be shut down at least until January of 2021. And so I was actually just watching a podcast, not a podcast, but a show, an online show where they were talking like a Broadway community show. But it's tough. Some people are having to leave the city. They got to leave. They got to go do something else because they got to,
Yeah,
and everybody else is they're trying to figure out how to wait it out. Because let's say that there's a vaccine by the end of the year. How long does it take that vaccine to actually be in use? Because I don't think you can really go back to theater without a vaccine, because the seats are too. You can't do a show in a theater like with a quarter of a house. You can't make money that way.
No.
And I don't really understand, honestly. I've read several game plans for how people want to go back and shoot television and film now. And I've read the game plans, and it's like, I don't know how they could possibly pull it off. And I won't go into that because it's a long, complicated thing about how
we talk about it here because we're trying to figure out. We've got 2 days of shooting left, and how do we do 2 days of shooting now? Fortunately for us, it's one actor at a time on green screen.
Right.
And and we read the guidelines that they came out with, that 22-page white paper, which was basically everything you knew already. They didn't tell you anything other than saying you need a COVID-19 compliance officer and they've got to be certified and this is what they're in charge of. Okay. Other than that, it's like social distancing, wash your hands, everyone gets disinfectant, take their temperature when they come in, minimize your crew. That's the biggest thing, is how do you minimize the crew? So what we've done is we're trying to figure, we were like, okay, ground up. It's like initially we were going to have our old gaffer who did Prelude to Axanar and the Vulcan scene. I talked to him. He was like, oh, well, I've got a 5-ton truck and I'll give his friends and family raid, but you're going to have to hire me and 4 of my guys. So we're talking about this. I'm talking with my DP and I'm like, do we really need a 5-ton truck and 5 guys? I said, I don't even know how we can do that. And he's like, we can't even do that. I said, why don't we just get a pre-lit green screen stage? There's a gazillion of them in LA. And he goes, that's what we should do. And so we eliminated all of that stuff. And we figured, look, we're going to shoot with 2 cameras. One of them is going to be on a tripod on 6. So the DP is going to camera off that because he doesn't have to change focus or anything. He's just going to he's going to set that one up. We're going to have a second camera that's on the slider. We got a camera op, a focus puller. But we were like, we cut everything out. We said our gaffer is going to be G&E as well. He's going to have to do everything. You know, it's a pre-lit green screen. We don't need anything. We need some lights on the actors. That's about it. You know, we need one production sound. We got our crew, the actual shoot crew, down to like 6. You know, and we're like, that's what's going to have to be. Just because we you know, and Crystal's the COVID-19 compliance officer. You know, I was like, well, I'm going to be on set. I'll do this. You know, I'll do the slate if I have to. You know, it's just how few, and we kept saying, do we really need this person? Do we really need this person? Do we really need, you know, because we got makeup too, and it's the reason we're shooting in LA. It's all special effects makeup. So I've got a person makeup team out there. You know,
right.
But fortunately, they're in another room and everything. So you have to totally rethink the way you're doing it. You know, we had a 20-person crew in last year, 25-person crew in October. Now we're going to have a 10-person crew.
Right. I've heard all kinds of things, including that, you know, the crew would be used as the extras in like crowd scenes because they don't want to bring extras in anymore. And I've also heard the whole part about if you get a job, everybody checks into a hotel and stays there for 14 days.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I know. And then like you're going to go onto a set that was dressed 14 days ago and locked down, that no one has touched it for 14 days.
Yeah.
Or been in the space. It just seems like it's going to cost a fortune. You know what I mean? Like how would any of us do that? And there was another thing with the quadrants. I remember there was another plan that I read that was like that every, you know, TV show would have like 4 quadrants, basically 4 complete crews. And then the actors kind of move from one quadrant to the next. But I think only 3 actors can go at a time.
Oh my God.
And you can't get close to the other people. You can't touch the other actor. You have to stay away from them. No physical touching, no kissing, none of that kind of stuff. And all the camera angles have to be such that it looks like the actors are closer together than they are. It just sounded like a nightmare. And then if somebody gets sick in one of the 4 quadrants, that quadrant shuts down. And the other 3 quadrants, like, assume whatever scenes that quadrant was supposed to shoot. It just sounded like, what? Like,
yeah,
insane. I don't know how we're going to do it. Like, I don't know how this is going to work. And a friend of mine was just saying that she has a show on PBS that she hosts. It's a music show. But she was talking about how they don't have an audience anymore. They used to tape in front of live audiences. But they managed to squeeze out a couple of shows. And how she, like, her mask is on until the last second before she has to speak. When it comes off, to sort of say whatever she has to say or whatever the interview is. But she's like putting it back up, like between when the camera's on the other person, so the mask is back up. And she takes it down and like says the next thing. But it's like, it's just nuts. This is like a nutty time to try and produce entertainment of any kind. That's for sure. But to come back to your question, it is grim at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think. I'm sorry, say that again.
I was going to say, to come back to your question about New York, it's grim. It's a hard thing. The theater and television and film communities are very intermeshed here. You know, I mean, people do everything, and but it's a sad moment right now. There's really nothing happening, and nobody's sure when. Nobody's sure when it's going to come back. So every once in a while, I'll get some weird self-tape. Out of the blues, I'm gonna say I'll self-tape or something, and I'll think, when is this happening? And like, there's zero answer. Like people are just like saying, hey, let's audition some actors so that someday when we can do this again, we'll have some actors that maybe we get hired. I don't even know if it's real or not anymore.
Well, and so we come up with these guidelines and like, oh, this is how we're going to reopen the industry. But it's like every month we're reassessing what we can do, because it's like, reopen the industry. Do you know what's going on in Florida and Arizona and Texas? It's like, you know, we are, as a country, we are on this crazy tipping point. Like,
right.
it could devolve into the freaking third world if we're not careful. So I'm like, and you're worried about filming? I think we got bigger problems going on.
You're right. I mean, you're right. You're right. It's the entertainment industry is a big industry, and it's a lot of jobs. But there are bigger industries, and there's more pressing things. So I'm kind of the same way. I'm trying not to complain too loudly about it, because it seems strange compared to what other people are doing, what the healthcare workers are doing and first responders are doing and all that. I don't want to whine too loudly right now.
Right.
What I do think, though, I really do believe we will be back, but I just don't see how we can logistically come back until there's a vaccine and until we've been able to, enough of us have been able to have an immunity. Yeah. And so that feels like at least a year and a half, probably maybe more,
Right. I mean, I'm thinking optimistically, it's this time next year.
Yep. That's kind of what I think too.
Like optimistically, because, Trump can say all he wants about a vaccine this year, but, all the experts are like, it'll be a miracle if it's December.
Right. I agree. Like I said, even if a vaccine is found or something that's a relatively safe vaccine, it takes a long time to manufacture vaccine, and everybody on the planet wants it.
Right.
The assumption is like, oh, we're America, we'll get it first. Well, maybe. Maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Yeah.
But it's a strange time, I'll grant you. And like I've been teaching here, as I said, and we went from teaching in a classroom to teaching on Zoom. And I did not have high hopes for that, honestly, because I'm trying to teach like skills that are very human, and we're working now with a screen instead of a fellow human being. And it was something. And I have to say, to my students' great credit, they adapted, and we actually found a way to work on Zoom. And I found a way also to sort of teach on Zoom. I changed my approach too, and I sort of really started examining what was possible on Zoom and how to present it to them, not as something less than, but just something different. And it actually has been okay. And I also know that a lot of my students are interested in doing television and film work as opposed to like doing theater work so much. And I said, well, guess what? There's a lot we can learn. There's a great deal you can learn about this medium, working with Zoom. It's not perfect, but you're not going to be behind. You're going to know a lot about cameras and a lot about how to work for cameras by the time we're done. So there's adaptation. And like I said, I wasn't planning on like doing a lot of heavy duty writing, but wow, I am now. I'm chucking it out now. So I think we'll adapt, and it's going to be a different world when we come out on the other side. But and this is me getting up on my kind of spiritual soapbox here, but I really do believe that we are important. I think that the people who make entertainment are important players in human life, and so we'll be back. It just is we have to kind of adapt to whatever the world's like when we come out the other side. We will adapt because we always have, and always will, because there's a real need for what we do. And it's kind of, I in the last chapter of this book that I wrote, I tell this story. Are we way over time, by the way? Am I talking?
You're good.
Okay, I'll make this a 3-minute story. How's that? But I, when I was on Boston Legal, I got sort of used to being recognized in public, and which I discovered is not my favorite thing, because it's I know people are excited and everything, but sometimes you just want to go to the grocery store and you don't really want to like answer the question, what's William Shatner really like? He's great. But you can only answer that question so many thousand times, and somebody was pursuing me in the grocery store. Like I can tell you can feel them behind you.
Oh my God.
And, so somebody came up and said something. You said, "Hey, are you an actor?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And I thought, okay, here we go. We're going to go through it. And she said, "Well, I know you from something." And I said, "Well, do you watch Boston Legal?" She goes, "No, I've never seen that show." I was like, "Okay, have you ever seen Criminal Minds?" "No, I've never seen that show." have you ever seen Castle? I've never seen that show. Like I was like death by resume. I was like just going through my credits. This woman had not seen anything, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know. I've been in a lot of stuff. Maybe you saw me on something. And she said, were you in A Midsummer Night's Dream in Buffalo, New York in 1985? Right. And I said, I was.
Oh my God.
And she said, you had this whole bit, because that's a beautiful play and it's hilarious. And there's always the rude mechanicals, if you know the play, have to put on a show in the play. And I played the guy who had to do like the drag role, who had to wear a dress in the show. And that's the character I played. And she said, you had a bit in that show where your dress was too tight and you couldn't sit down. And every time you tried to sit down, you couldn't do it. You were trying to maneuver, trying to get into a position where you could sit down. And that was absolutely true. I concocted that with the costume designer, and I had a whole thing that I did that like I would milk every night like crazy, like for all these laughs. And she said, I can't tell you how many times in the last 25 years I have laughed myself to sleep thinking about that show.
Oh my God.
Right.
That is amazing.
Well, you know what's amazing about it? And what was really, it's one of the reasons I wrote the book, honestly, was I was expecting that to be another Boston legal story. I mean, I was expecting that to be another TV thing. And what I wrote in the book is, and I believe this is true actually, is if you do something and you do it well, like wherever you do it, whether it's for an audience of 10 million people or an audience of like 5 people, if you do it well and you bring your whole heart to it, they will somebody in that audience will remember it until the day they die. And that is what makes it art. That is what makes it worthy of our time and our trouble and our financial crises and everything else that we go through in this business. It's the moment of doing something that mattered, that mattered. And I'm proud to be be an artist and do what I do. I'm proud of it, and I'm proud and I love the people I know, like you and everybody else I know that's in this, are just the greatest company, and for all of our for all of our ups and downs, I'm so proud of all of us and everybody who's coming up, all the new people who are coming up as well. I'm proud of them too. One of the reasons I like working with students is because the next group's going to do great things too. They're going to do things as good or better than what we did, and it'll just keep going. The party will just keep going. As long as we got a planet to live on, there will be entertainment.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I thank you for being part of it, and I thank you for enriching my life with the times we've spent together and the times you invited me to Sci-Fest. It was truly an epic experience.
You're great, Alec, and I am so proud of you for what you've done with Axanar. I mean, my God, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you. It's just a little project. It's just just a little project.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really enjoyed talking. It's been nice to catch up with you. It's been forever.
Listen, I love the opportunity to share my friends with the Axanar family and everyone who watches this show and learns a little bit. I try and bring in interesting people, and you are certainly one of them. I hope we can work together in the future.
Me too.
I'm hoping we can work in the future. But I will keep you posted how things are going on this end, and you keep me posted on your end. And
absolutely,
if you make it down this way,
absolutely. Absolutely, I will. And just see if you can come up with an idea for like senior citizens in space.
We're not that old. Jeez.
Just in case it takes a long time.
I know. I turned 60 this year. Actually, in 2 months. Oh my God, less than 2 months, I turned 60. So it's like
you don't look it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I don't feel it either.
Good.
But it's amazing how like we're gonna have this big party at Dragon Con because my birthday's September 3rd, which is the weekend of Dragon Con. So we're like have this big party. My friends were gonna fly in, and and then this hits, and I'm like, but that's there's a big orange cake in my freezer, and it's gonna be me and Crystal, and shoveling it in my dog's mouth too, I guess. That's about it. It's like COVID has changed everything. It's like so much stuff. I got to be careful about going down to see my parents and everything. So there's lots of stuff. So way ahead of you, old Code. Way ahead of you. Anyway, listen. Thank you so much. We were going to give you the traditional Star Trek salute here. Live long and prosper, my friend. We will talk again soon. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And
thank you, and thanks to everybody. I saw the comments coming up for people. Thanks to all the people who were with us in the room listening in. It was great to have you here, and the same to you, my friends. Live long and prosper.
All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see everyone tomorrow or the next time on Axanar Confidential. Thank you, David.
Bye. Take it easy.